I actually created this book after the passing of my mom. I remember standing at the graveside thinking about, all the things that I had to do to put my mom to rest. There is no way. I'm in the industry. I do this for a living. I help people, prepare for these certain situations. And I found myself in that situation where I was overwhelmed. And I thought to myself, if I am overwhelmed on this situation, imagine families that have no clue. I hear people say this all the time. Well, I have nothing. Do you understand, if you do not have a power of attorney and you are incapacitated or you are unable to speak, but you work for an organization, your family cannot apply for any benefits, whether it's from the government or whether from the insurance company, like the group insurance company that you're with. I say this all the time. Grandma was good with the children, but grandma never even hold $10,000 in her hands before. So now you're putting this whole life insurance in her hand, and grandma just blew it in 6 months. I always tell my clients, you never leave a pension with the next employer. They look at me sometimes like, what do you mean? Would you leave your assets with your ex-husband? Today's episode is deeply personal and powerful and practical. We are talking about something most people avoid, but everyone needs an end of life planning, not because of fear, but because of love. And what I want to introduce to you is my book, My Farewell and Final Wishes, Organizer today. So welcome to the Money is For You podcast, brought to you in collaboration with Notable Wealth Management, Inc. I am Jacqueline, your host on this journey. Let's remember, money is not just a number. It's an energy, legacy, and alignment. So let's just get into this. So why does this book matters? So let me just tell you a little bit of the book and how it was created. I actually created this book after the passing of my mom. And so I remember standing at the graveside thinking about, all the things that I had to do to put my mom to rest, and thinking to myself, knowing that my family would not be able to do this because there was so much details and things that we had to do to get her ready to put her to rest, that I realized to myself, there is no way. I'm in the industry. I do this for a living. I help people, prepare for these certain situations. And I found myself in that situation where I was overwhelmed. And I thought to myself, if I am overwhelmed on this situation, imagine families that have no clue, first of all, where their documents are. Like, for instance, if, you don't tell the person where things are, and they now have to go through to find do you have a will? Do you have a power of attorney? Do you have life insurance? Where is everything? So that's where this whole concept came in of me creating this book after the passing of my mom. And I thought, if I needed it, I truly believe that every household needs this book. So what I want to do today, I want to go through some chapters. I want to really go through the book with you and basically share some of the information. And this book have 97 sections within to fill out. The book was created not only for individuals, but it was also created for couples, right? One of the things also why I created a book is that in this whole process, being an advisor, working for an insurance company, I realized the insurance company, they had their own book. And then when I got to the funeral home had their book. But what I realized that in both parties, they had the book to attract you to purchase more products. And I realized that the little details that were really missing, the important stuff, like they were just giving you enough for you to either buy more or give the advisor the opportunity to sell more life insurance to you. And when I got to the funeral home, I realized the funeral home was preparing you to buy their product. And so I wanted to create something based on the needs of the client compared to, to selling something. Like I wanted to create something that I needed, and I know majority of households would need it. So whether you are a small business owner, a professional, a single person, or a single with some children, or a single without children, or a couple, this book is for you. I created a book, as I said, for two people. So if it's a husband and wife, you can fill out for yourself and your hubby, or if it's for you alone, you can also fill it out for you. But remember one thing I always say at the beginning of the book, use a pencil, because I'm actually going through, because every summer I do an audit on my entire, I call it financial checkup, to see if there's any changes needed and require. And I did have to make some changes. So it's good to do it in pencil. So at the beginning of the book, I actually talked about why I created the organizer. Now, I did not actually talk about my mom in the book because I felt it was too early, and, emotionals within the family was still very fresh. So I did not want to bring that into this, but I talked about a couple that, well, it wasn't a couple, a young man that I had met earlier on, and what had happened over time, over a 2-year period, he had gotten married, and him and his wife had purchased a home. And he was very excited about sitting with me and going through, to do a consultation, and he was really excited about it. But when he spoke to the wife was not interested in meeting with me. And she told him that she already had her life insurance and she didn't have a need to sit with me. And that same summer, the individual was riding his bike with a group of guys and he died. And in that situation, he had life insurance, not enough to cover the mortgage, but that life insurance, the wife was not the beneficiary. It was actually his niece. He did not have a will and a power of attorney. And so that story, actually, that case went to court because not only did he die, one of the other riders also died in the accident. And the wife of the other person was suing the estate, his estate. So it was really, really messed up. And it was in court for 2 years. Now, if they had sat with me that summer and we had gone through everything, she would have known that she wasn't the beneficiary. And she could have, even if she said I had everything that she needed, they would have now known, who were beneficiaries to what. Seriously, this happens so many times that you marry someone, you buy a house with them, you tie all these things, but then you don't know anything about the person, but you don't want to take the time to even understand what this person have with you. This person was actually trying to sit with her to let her know what I have and what we need to do so that we were properly protected. And she didn't think the need, but the fact that she sat with another advisor and did not want to bring him in, it just shows that there was a separation in both of them. Anyway, it took 2 years plus to settle. I don't even know if she ended up getting anything or I really don't know what happened because after a while I kind of lost track about it. But I share that part of the book because it was, at the time, it still was very new to me and it still was very fresh in my head. The next part of the chapter we're going to talk about is the personal information. And so that personal information is, again, it's a simple thing, who you are, were you married before, do you, what your occupation, and again, it's for two people. The next part was access the important documents, location, and password. I just think that is so important. Again, we're collecting data here, not me. And as I said, when I created this book, because I was asked the question, Why did you name it My Farewell? I said, because when you purchase this book, it becomes yours now. So it becomes your farewell, not mine anymore. So that was why. It's your personal information. And so access to the information, this provides you with, you know, social security number, social insurance number, wills, birth certificate, marriage certificate, separation, divorce paper. These are important documents. Like, you still have to know that you have it, because, you know, this also can tell if you have a copy of divorce, because some people think they're divorced, and then to find out that they're still married to the person that they've been separated for over 30 years, thinking that the other party had done the job, and they never did. And that has happened twice in my business, where both parties, thinking that they were divorced, and said, well, you know, the husband took care of it or the wife took care of it. And then to find out when they're about to get married again, that they were still married. So again, you know, these are important stuff. And going through this, you know, brings you to a place where it really makes you check to see, do I really have these documents? It's putting your house in order. And this is what this book is doing. It doesn't take the place of a life insurance. It doesn't take a place of a will. But what it actually do is put in everything in one place, a place where if something were to happen to you, whether incapacitated or die prematurely, it's there. It's there so that somebody can get it. And you have to share that information with your family members. You have to share it. Like, if, you know, and I think I said it in one of my other earlier recordings this year, is that especially with my Western community, we have this thing, it's on a need to know basis. And I'm guilty of that too. But we need to start communicating more. Like, we have to be open about certain things in case something happens. Like, we are not invincible. One of us are going to pass one day, or something where, like, I mean, I have a client right now that has been in a coma for the last month, and his family doesn't know where things are, right? So again, we have to start sharing it, even if it's with one person. They have to know where things are. Is it at the bank? Is it in a vault? Is it in your top drawer? Where's your stuff? Where can I find your will? Like, I mean, if you've done your will at a lawyer's office, that original copy would be at the lawyer's office. But do you know who the lawyer is? That information can be found in this book if you have that book as part of your tracking record, right? So mortgage documents, mortgage deeds, lease agreement, real estate deeds, vehicle title, rental property agreement, health card, business agreement, cohabitation agreement, bank statement. These are all information that you can say where you can find these documents. You know, is it on the computer? Where is it? Right? And it has a list for all the life insurance companies that, you know, like, let's say, like, for me, I have like 4 different insurance companies that I have life insurance with. So it gives you a place to put all that information. If you are in a group benefit, you need to have some form of whether it's a pension you have with them, the pension number, the employee number. If you know if you're a citizen like myself, a Canadian citizen, you need that number. Certificate of ownership for instance, you may have a plot. I have a plot. You need to state that in there, right? All that information is like the key information. Again, if you have disability insurance, long-term care, critical illness, it goes on. It gives you everything. And the reason also why this book is so valuable is that a lot of times people don't remember some of the things they have. So this helps you to, oh my God, I have these shares. Oh yeah. Like, you know, it kind of brings you back to, it's a checkup, right? It brings you back to remember, oh yeah, remember I had those, 100 shares with Manulife. Didn't remember you had it, but it's now sitting in a vault that you now need to record that. Because do you know how many people die? And I used to work for insurance company. Like, I'm still an insurance broker because I sell for everybody now. But there's a time when I worked for one insurance company. And do you know how many billions of dollars of unclaimed life insurance that people have not claimed, that, so they have all this money sitting there and nobody's come forward to claim it. So it means that that person could have passed on, and the family never knew that there was a life insurance. So it's just sitting there. So as I said, there's so much information in this book that I think that I believe everyone that is 18 and over should have it, along with a life insurance, a critical illness, and also with a will and power of attorney. And I hear people say this all the time, well, I have nothing. Do you understand, if you do not have a power of attorney and you are incapacitated or you are unable to speak, but you work for an organization, your family cannot apply for any benefits, whether it's from the government or whether from the insurance company, like the group insurance company that you're with, without you have a legal document to provide to the carrier that you actually have power of attorney to work on behalf of this person. So it is so important. And I had talked about it before, where you can go online and you can get an Ontario power of attorney for free. And as I say, even if you go that route, I don't think it's the right way, but if that's the route, because, it's inexpensive, you would have to still get it notarized. And you can do that at any lawyer. I think I was told $25 for the first document, $50 for the first document, and every other document after is $25. So give and take, you might be spending about $100 to do a will and power of attorney, if that's your choice. My lawyer, I spoke to him last week because I'm in that process again. And he said that for me, it will be half of what I originally paid. But he said if it's a couple, it's about $800 and change, other than if it's a basic will and power of attorney, it's about $800 for a couple. Individuals about $6 something. So again, I don't think that's bad. And one of the things that I know for a fact is that you can clear that. You can actually expense that as part of your, on your CRA tax income. So it's not like it will really reduce how much taxes you pay for that year. So you can actually claim that as an expense, as a professional expense. So, I mean, those are things you can talk to your accountant about to make sure. And especially if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur that is self-employed, you can actually use as a write-off when it comes to taxes, right? So there is always ways around it. But I'll say it to you time and time again. It is so important that you have you have your house in order. Some of us drive beautiful cars, dress in beautiful clothes, but the fact that you can take that money to make sure that what you've built is protected, somehow it's always seemed to be, it's too expensive. I just don't get it. But that's probably just me. I was looking today at Timo, I think it's Timo it's called, or Amazon. And one of the things that they were actually selling was password, like the books to put your password codes in. And there's a chapter in this book for password information. And it helps you, gives you the list from what device you have to email addresses to Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, that's now actually X, LinkedIn, TikTok, Google, Wi-Fi, home security info, home safety. Now, that book on Amazon starts from anything from $10 to like $25. This book is actually on Amazon, which provides you with all personal information for $28.99. And you get, not only you can list all your passwords in here, but you're able to list all the other important stuff that is important to you and your family, right? So that book alone is just for passwords. And I mean, if you're someone like me that works for 25 carriers on top of, my own personal stuff and, bank accounts, different places that I have to have access to. It's important to have a place where you can store all your, passwords, right? So I can understand why it's a need to have that. But as I said to you, here's a legal document that you can put all that personal stuff in, that you could have it for life. And again, if you have you and your partner, you can list both information in there. And so the other part of this book that is also, I find to be very valuable, is for the moms and dads that have dependent children. And this is big, because I remember there was an individual one time that encouraged her mom encouraged her to make her the full trustee for her estate. She didn't have a will, but her life insurance had her as the beneficiary. It's supposed to be in trust for her children. And soon after the daughter passed, the grandmother got the money and she blew it out in 6 months. So I will say to you, it is so important that you know the people that you're putting in trust for your estate, and also, who are going to be the guarantors for your children, who are going to be the trustees for your kids. I say this all the time. Grandma was good with the children, but grandma never even hold 10,000 in her hands before. So now you're putting this whole life insurance in her hand, and grandma just blew it in 6 months. Easy come, easy go, because she did not know how to manage money. So this money was supposed to take the place of the mother who had passed, and the kids now have nothing, right? So we have to also know that in our hearts, these people will do the right thing. And one of the things I tell my clients all the time, just don't put executor Joe Blow and think that your job is done. If whatever you do right now with your family and your children, you need to have an addendum page, one that says, okay, if grandma's going to take care of the kids, this money is going to go into annuity, and every month she gets $4,000 or $5,000 to take care of the kids. I want the kids to continue to play sports. You have to put all that details in that will. In that, in your documents to state, this is how I would like the money to be allocated. And if you want the kids to go to school, and at 18, this amount to be transferred to the university to pay for the university fees and whatnot. And then if you want them to have the remaining at 35, you also have to state that. But you also have to make sure that the money that you're leaving is going to grow and be able to give the kids exactly what you wanted for them if you were alive. So the fact that you're just thinking that, oh, I've done my job, I've put, I've made grandma the executor for my estate. And as I explained to you, but grandma doesn't know how to manage money. Now, grandma gets that money and she thinks it's hers. No, it's not for her. It's for the kids to maintain the lifestyle like if you were alive. So these are important documents that you have to sit with a lawyer and write out. Even if you don't want to pay for that time, write it out up front, so that when you sit with a lawyer, you could hand that paperwork to him, or send it to him through a soft copy through email, and so that he can add that as an extra document in that package, so that at least now, if anything happens, there's the proof of what you wanted for your children. It's important, and you have to know the people and trust the people that you're going to leave to take care of these kids. Like this is like, your precious gem, and you're just taking it for granted. It blows my mind. Again, in this book here, it also states the children's name and who you want as guarantor. You can list it on here. But this here, as I said, this does not take the place of a will. This is just so that people know this was what you wanted. Where can I find a will? But you can also include that in here. So there's a section for that. The medical information. So if you have a pacer, you need to at least state that in there too. You know, people may have pacers in their bodies. You put all that information on there. You know, again, for the children, if the children have any allergies, the children OHIP, there's a section all there in there for them also. And what I like also, I had stayed a section in there for medical records, where some people may want to donate their organs if something were to happen to them. It's gotten before, I think we just needed to do it on our driver's license, but there are steps now. And so I've also written the steps as to what you would have to do if you were going through it. There's a link, and in that link, they give you the application that you have to fill out and submit it. So you can't just say, yeah, I want to donate my body, or I want to donate X, Y, and Z, and put it at the back of your OHIP card and think that's okay. There's actually a form that you have to follow. So there are links also in this book that tell you the different places. It's called like Gift for Life. You know, place, if you're out of Ontario, there's other links that you can actually go on there and register the stuff. So again, there's a reason why they're asking people to do this, is because if something did happen to you and they had a chance to save another human being, if these paperwork is not in order, it could stop the process of moving forward for the doctors or the nurses, or the family member may say, I don't want that, right? So these documents, doing them up front will help. And I'll tell you, you need to also share this with your family so that there's no fight at the last minute saying that, no, you can't do this. Because I've seen stuff like this happen already. So again, I think we take life for granted, or we just operate like life is, life will never change. Life can change really fast. And even, especially if something dramatic happens in a family, you could see how things sometimes, spiral down, like, end up in the rabbit hole or whatnot. So these are important stuff. So here we're going to the executor, power of attorney, wills, and whatnot. And I did a little bit of write-up explaining the difference between a will and a trust, which is better. Again, as I say, I heard people ask me this question a lot. I'm not a lawyer. What I'm providing you is educational, right? This is why you sit with a lawyer, and the lawyer can explain in details everything that you need, right? So if you're in a situation where you have a lot of assets, a trust might be better than a will and a power of attorney, because because it has a lot to do with taxes. And again, this is stuff that you sit not only with your lawyer, you sit with your accountant and your financial advisor. Those are three most important things if you want to go beyond just having a will and power of attorney. A trust is a lot more detailed. It's a lot more complicated. And it takes time, right? And I think in Canada, a trust is only valid for X amount of years before it has to be cashed in and start over or whatnot. And again, I don't have the details. So those are questions that you should talk to your lawyer on when it comes to that stuff. So again, as I said, that information is pretty much like it gives you everything. I remember going through this only yesterday. And again, what I had as my executor 5 years ago, it's not my executor today, right? So this is why, I always say to my clients, there's a life cycle every 3 to 4 years. You either have another child, you either get married, you buy a second house or first house. People that might be important to you 5 years ago, you may not find them to be important 5 years later, or you might be going through a divorce, or you might be remarrying. All these things happen. So when I say every 5 years, every 3 to 4 to 5 years, there's a life cycle. It seriously is a life cycle. This is why a will and a power of attorney, a life insurance even, a critical illness even. It's not a one-time thing. Set it and forget it and think that just, everything will work itself out. It doesn't work like that. Your circumstances changes, your life changes, and everything has to change to meet you where you are. This is why we do annual reviews every year, right? I mean, I can call my clients and may say, well, there's nothing changed and whatnot. And, you can't push it, but you yourself would have known if, did you leave a job? The pension that you have sitting at that company, you might need to move it. I always tell my clients, you never leave a pension with an ex-employer. And, they look at me sometimes like, what do you mean? Would you leave your assets with your ex-husband? So why would you leave your money with an employer? I don't think of it the same way. Like you and your husband divorced, you split all the assets, you've gone your separate ways. Sometimes people are angry of that, and because it didn't end up in a nice divorce where two people civilize, and you've gone your separate ways, right? You do what you had to do. You start over, you buy another house, whatnot. Why would you now leave your pension, your hard-earned pension with an ex-employer, right? I mean, the other thing with that also is that if you go into financial hardship, your money sitting at that employer, you can't have access to it. If you have that money sitting in a lira or something that you could access it, and you go through financial hard time, you can go to your advisor and says, listen, I'm going through financial hard time. Can I take some of that money out? Yes, the government would allow you to do that, but you can't do that if that money's stuck at an employer. So you're giving them you continue to give them the same benefits like if you're still working for them. And that will be something we will talk about on our next episode. But just as I said, all the stuff that we do intertwines, and that's just the way it is. So again, it has like pages for banking information, because between banking and credit cards and all that stuff, we do have a lot of those documents. So there are pages for all your credit card listing. One of the things that sometimes we forget is those subscriptions that continue to bill every month, that we have to make a list of that, because the person that you leave responsible, which is your executor, they're not going to remember who you had subscription with. So again, you can make a list of all the companies, the cable company, the internet company, the phone company. You could have a subscription to a gym, that they would have to cancel. So there are pages it helps you to remember what you have. Because as I said, sometimes I don't even remember some of the stuff I have. But when you have it listed, you remember that, I need to cancel this because I haven't used it for like 2 years, right? And then there's final information. As I said, financial information, your banking information, your investments. You may have investment with personal, and you may have with the employee that you're with. You may have investment with one company and some with the bank. All of that needs to be listed, because again, if nobody knows where things are, they wouldn't know that they have to send them notice that you are incapacitated or you're dead. So these are things that it helps. As I said, the book can be found on Amazon. It's $28.99. Again, it's for couples, or you can go onto my webpage, nwminc.ca, and click onto the store, and that also will take you back to the book. So, it's a really, really good book. Everybody again needs to have a copy of it. Again, there's one for safety deposit, and then there's a section for commercial business owner information. So again, if you're a business owner like myself, you might need a section for there. It's also a section for people who have in real estate and they have more than one property. They might have a cottage. There's listed where the deeds are, if it's a sole ownership or it's owned with someone or joint, all of that you can list all that information in there. You might have had, like, for instance, I actually know of a friend. Actually, this used to be a part of now I don't know what you guys call it in Canada. We back home we call it a box or a hand. It means that they have these things where one person will collect money from everybody and then there's a payout. I don't know the full detail. And one of the ladies passed and she had owed money to the box, as we call it. And so, the person who was running the box had to now go and collect on that. So again, that stuff can be listed in here, right? You may not want your hubby to know that you're in one of those partners, but he may find out that you did owe money to somebody, right? Again, we talked about company pensions, all that stuff. And I want to just quickly get into some areas. Now, again, it has areas for jewelry, if you had like special art values and stuff that you may want to list, or you may even want to give it out to, that part should be listed in your will also. But you can state what you have, what jewelry you have, and how you want it to be dispersed in here. But again, it should be a part of your will. For people who are animal lovers like myself, there's a section for your pets. What foods, if there are any medicals, where is their animal clinic place that you take them to, maybe for their vaccines every year or whatever. There's a section there for it. Are you a part of any charities? There's a section also there for that. So the book is very, very detailed. And I'm going to jump all the way to the back. Again, there's some section here. There's also a section of the book that have for you to do a net worth statement. It's very important. I think I discussed this in the last recording about adding up all your debts. There's an actual section in this book for you to do your net worth statement to actually show what are your liabilities and what are your assets. And it'll show you at the end of it what are your net value, what you own in all of it, despite the debts and the liability. There's a section for that. And I say, do it in pencil because it changes regularly. You could even take the information on there and put it on an Excel spreadsheet and work from it. But it gives you the things that you will need to record in the Excel spreadsheet. So there's a sample in there that you could use. And then this whole section in the back here, it has everything to do with funeral. It has to do as to, and I'm again, we're not going to go into all it, but it gives you every single detail from funeral arrangements. Do you want flowers? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried with a headstone? It gives you, do you want to have a church funeral? Do you want it to be at the funeral home? What music do you want? Again, people might think it's too much, but you know what? I'm one of those people that I would say, I want this song, this song. One will say, well, you're dead. But I'm just saying, that is my prerogative. And if I'm paying for it, I think I can decide what I want, right? But again, there could be some people like myself. They may want to go out with a bang, right? But if you don't tell people what you want, people would know, right? Like with my mom, we were just making decision based on what we think she would want, not what we know, you know what I mean? Because first of all, our mom was had dementia, and she had dementia for 6 years prior to her passing. My mom was always one of those women that was you never talk about debt to her. So that was also one of the reasons why we never really brought that up. But a lot of decisions we were making based on how we felt, not what we felt she needed, right? So this is why I say it's important to have a book like this, because after or in the planning, get into the day of the funeral, or even the fact that you could be incapacitated in the hospital, when they go through this book, they're going to go, oh, this is what so-and-so wanted. it's written here, right? Because a will and a power of attorney is not going to go into the detail. You could only go so much because now you're going to be paying the lawyer forever and ever and ever. But this book here, and again, it changes, because what I wanted 5 years ago, I may not want today, right? So this is why, put it in pencil, but it's why you'll have this book for a lifetime. The lifestyle will change or your circumstances will change, but this book will change with you. So it's very important. And then again, there's a back of it that actually gives you a part for you to write. So if you wanted to say anything personal, your last personal wishes and last words to the people in your life, you can write all of that in the back there. You can write poems. Like I've took the time and I wrote this book thinking about every person I thought about that needed this book, which is every house in Canada, and every house in the world should have one of this, but it was created for Canadians. I was thinking of everyone and you when I created the book. And again, as I said, this book can be found on Amazon. The link will be below at the bottom. You can click on it, or you can go onto my webpage, nwminc.ca. Or as I said, you could get the book from Amazon. It's $28.99. Or you could reach out to me if you live in the Durham region, and you can get a copy for myself. But as I said, it's very important that I said to get this book. Also, make sure, guys, if you have not gone through if you haven't had a checkup in a while, and you haven't sat with your life insurance or your advisor in a while, and you're looking for an advisor, please, you could reach out to me. You could either go to my webpage, or you can send me an email at info@nwminc.ca. It's info@nwminc.ca. And, we can go from there. And just remember, money is for you. The dollars. And I'm a money coach, I'm a money girl. Let's remember, money is not just a number. It's energy, legacy, and alignment. That's why I use the money thing. Well, girl, that's all I had in my pocket.
That's $5 no big shit.
I know. But you know what? You know what? It's still $1.
Yeah,
It's still
better than holding a loonie.
or zero or holding nothing.
Have a quarter here.
So, and actually the funny thing was, when I had did the 40 days of manifestation, the teacher was holding a $5 bill. So that's how I end up having this $5 that have been in my office from then. Because he was teaching us about the energy of alignment and how you build up the energy to manifest, right? But he says you got to hold that money in your hands. And what is the money telling you? Like, he was actually trying to get us deep into the meditation, right? So that's, yeah. So anyway, okay. So we ready? Oh, Lord.